2 weeks after releasing the Murray-Darling Basin plan, the government is still busy selling it. Tomorrow, Water Minister Tony Burke and Authority Chair Craig Knowles will be in Griffith, where copies of the Basin Guide were burned last year. Irrigators believe cuts to water allocations threaten their farms, but others argue more water is vital for rivers and wetlands. Mike Sexton has reported from irrigation communities and tonight looks at the other side of the debate.
It's been an absolutely amazing change in those processes. A lot of those trees that I thought were dead are actually regenerating and producing leaf and hopefully will recover to a certain degree. As you can see, some nests in that tree right in front of us.
All year, Peter Cale has been documenting the transformation of his part of the Murray-Darling Basin, watching what happens when drought turns to flood. This is Lake Merity on Calpram Station, an old pastoral lease 20 minutes north of Renmark, near where South Australia meets New South Wales and Victoria. But the ecologist doesn't see it as a lake so much as a filter.
All of these environmental components hold the salt back. They actually filter out the debris, etc., from the water and give us much cleaner and higher quality water for all other activities, both recreation, irrigation, and for the environment itself.
As the winter floodwater recedes, it's leaving behind a tiny future forest of red gums and new growth in old black box trees.
As you can see, it's flowering at the moment. It's also got quite a bit of new growth, which is all induced by the flooding.
But amid the new growth are the remnants of a grim past. These trees went the best part of a decade without a drink. Without water flows to keep it moving, so much salt has accumulated here that the groundwater is twice as salty as the ocean. Peter Cale says this saline cancer will spread unless regular environmental flows of water wash the salt downstream and out to sea.
If we don't start dealing with these issues, this whole system will eventually go the same way, and the consequences of that for South Australia will be devastating because we'll have a very salty system.
One of the benchmarks set by Water Minister Tony Burke for the Murray-Darling Basin plan is that the Murray mouth be open 9 years out of 10. It's often argued, particularly by upstream irrigators, that it's a waste to let water go out to sea. But in the saltier parts of the system, they say it's simple hydrology. You can't clean out a dirty bath while the plug is in.
Do you know what? I don't think environmentalists and irrigators have a position that's really disparate. We're all after a healthy river, and we live on the river. We know we need a healthy river for our families and farming families and food producers to survive. So what we want's not that different.
South Australia's response to the Basin Plan involved bringing together all river users at Parliament House, where the Premier, Jay Weatherill, sought a united front.
We had environmentalists and irrigators here, as well as local government representatives, people that are worried about the local communities in South Australia, all really saying very much the same thing. We want a healthy river, we want it based on science.
The inclusion of local government is significant because tourism is a serious economic source for river towns, as the river is a playground for those who like to boat and fish.
This is not just about a few fat 50-year-old blokes sitting on a riverbank, drowning worms and sinking a couple of tinnies. This is big business.
The connection between river flows and fishing is a tight line. When the drought ended, the floods washed tons of stored up salt and leaf litter from wetlands into the main river channel, creating over 1,000 kilometres of what's known as black water, where the water discolours and there's little oxygen.
First time I've experienced in my life, it was nothing but a stinking rotten cesspool. There was no bird life, there was nothing, it was just dead black water.
But as with the floodplains, the freshwater flows brought regeneration as the native species responded.
The moment that flow went through, up come all the yabbies. And I have never ever witnessed a run of yabbies like that in all my life.
A report by Ernst & Young concluded that recreational fishing is worth $1.3 billion annually to the basin, as each person spends an average of $262 per trip.
Everybody benefits from it, not only the bloke that runs the tackle store, but also the bloke that has the local corner store selling a milkshake or a pie, the person selling petrol down at the servo, the caravan park. Everybody benefits.
Oh, you get another one.
The recreational fishers say fishing on the rivers have never been better than over the past 18 months, but acknowledge their members will go to where the fish are, meaning without environmental flows to encourage fish stocks, the basin communities will lose their business.
So what we want them to think about, we want the Murray-Darling Basin plan to address, is issues involved with environmental flows that will benefit the fish.
Back on the Calpram floodplain, Peter Cale is hopeful the basin plan will deliver regular flows to avoid the disasters of the past drought. He cites the mighty eucalypts as an example of nature's resilience, but warns even these trees have a limit to what they can endure.
With both the black box and the red gum, the flooding actually induces the flowering and then a massive production of seed, and that prepares it for the next flood that'll come along. And it can last for quite a number of years, but it's certainly not an indefinite supply that can last forever.
Mike Sexton reporting. And